Father Miller here. Welcome back to the Nerd Father. Today is the day that a lot of us never thought would ever come. The Vatican this morning released the long awaited McCarrick report, basically going into detail how McCarrick rose to the heights of power, from Archbishop of Newark to Washington, D.C. And along the way, accusations were made against him, but it seemed that nothing was ever done. Uh, McCarrick, I think it was 2 years ago, was deflocked, basically laicized, which is one of the most extreme punishments that a priest can have. So when McCarrick dies, and I pray to God that he is reconciled with the church, I pray that he has reconciled his soul with God. And he's going to need a lot of prayers because heaven knows how long he probably would burn in purgatory if he is lucky to make it there. But again, I've seen McCarrick before. Last time I would have saw him was at one of the March for Life masses in DC. When we were in the seminary, we used to get to take part in the youth mass. And I just remember McCarrick leading the mass and introducing the bishops. And it kind of had like a Tonight Show monologue flavor to it. I just never really cared for McCarrick. And the thing that's interesting too is he is kind of like the kingmaker when it came to bishops being appointed in America. I believe Cardinal Cupich of Chicago and Cardinal Tobin of Newark, his former diocese, are examples of that. So the document is at 461 pages. It's a lot. I had to go get a frame made this morning at Hobby Lobby, and in order to get everything done at the same time, they said they could do it if I stay in the store. So I did. I mean, it took about a half hour. But I ended up reading a part of the report. I'm probably a fourth of the way through it. I could say that he is a very sick man. But anyway, this is coming to you from the National Catholic Register. It's kind of a full text. I'm not going to go into the full text. Honestly, some of the stuff that I read, it's disgusting. So, but I have to give kudos to Pope Francis because, again, there were a number of us that didn't think that this would ever see the light of day. So, let's see. If you want to see the report, you can find it at the Vatican's website. It's on the front page of the Vatican's website. So at the time of Theodore McCarrick's appointment as Archbishop of Washington in 2000, the Holy See acted on the basis of partial and incomplete information. What has now come to light are omissions, underestimations, and choices that later proved to be wrong due to the fact that during the assessment process required by Rome at the time, those questioned did not always disclose all they knew. Until 2017, there had never been any precise accusation regarding sexual abuse or harassment or harm done to a minor. As soon as the first report was received from a victim who was a minor at the time the abuse was committed, Pope Francis reacted promptly. Regarding the elderly cardinal who had already retired as head of the archdiocese in 2006, first taking away his red hat and then dismissing him from the clerical state. So this would be laicization. So when McCarrick dies, and he will die, I mean, he's 90, he will not be buried as a priest. He will be buried in a suit and tie. He will not wear the clerics to the grave because he has been removed as a priest. So the document is called the Holy See's Institutional Knowledge and Decision Making related to former Cardinal Theodore Edgar McCarrick. And this is covering 1930 to 2017. So this is a very long document. But as I said, so far it's really not been too. I mean, it's so far it's been a quick read. I've skipped a few parts mostly because I don't want to read the exact gory details of what he did. Um, so the compilation and publication of the report itself, given its extensiveness and content, responds to the request of Pope Francis that the decision making regarding McCarrick be thoroughly investigated. Oh, and they did. The report also represents an act of pastoral care by the Pope for the American Catholic community that was wounded and anguished that McCarrick had been appointed and promoted to high office in the church. The strength of the report lies not only in its completeness, it is, but the overview it provides. From this overview, a few key points emerge that are necessary to consider. The first point concerns the mistakes that were made. These have already led to the adoption of new regulations within the church to help avoid history repeating itself. The second element is that until 2017, there have been no specific accusations regarding the sexual abuse of minors committed by McCarrick. It is true that in the 90s, several letters alluding to minor abuse had been received by cardinals and in the Nunciature, basically the Pope's ambassador to America in Washington, but without providing any details, names, or circumstances. These letters were regrettably considered not to be credible because of the lack of concrete elements. The first specific accusation involving a minor was, in fact, that which emerged 3 years ago, which led to the immediate opening of a canonical process that concluded with two decisions taken by Pope Francis. The first was taking away the red hat of the cardinal, and the second dismissed him from the clerical state. Those who came forward to testify against McCarrick as the canonical process unfolded are to be commended for having allowed their truth to be known and should be thanked for having done so while overcoming the pain of remembering all that they have been through. So it looks like that McCarrick was first considered to be a bishop in 1977, as well as when he was appointed to Metchunk. I can't say that name. And then to Newark in 86. None of the people consulted to provide information furnished negative information regarding McCarrick's moral conduct. So what happens is when the bishop is being considered being named a bishop, I mean, an investigation has to be done into the person's background by priests and people that know him to assure that he is qualified and worthy of becoming a bishop. So the first and formal assessment regarding the Archbishop's conduct towards seminarian and priests from his diocese surfaced in the mid-90s before John Paul II's visit to the city. It was Cardinal O'Connor who carried out the assessment. He asked others, including American bishops, for information and then concluded that there was no impediment to a papal visit to the city in which McCarrick was a pastor at that moment. Let's see. A crucial point in the case is certainly McCarrick's appointment as the Archbishop of Washington. During the months in which McCarrick's possible transfer to a see in the United States, traditionally led by a cardinal service, notably among the several positive influential opinions regarding his person, is a negative one from Cardinal O'Connor. While acknowledging that he did not have first-hand information, the Cardinal explained in a letter dated in October 99, addressed to the Apostolic Nuncio, that he believed McCarrick's appointment to a new office would be a mistake, and that, in fact, the risk of a serious scandal existed in the light of the rumors that McCarrick had in the past shared a bed with young men at the rectory and seminarians at a beach house. I miss Cardinal O'Connor. I lived in Jersey for about a year right after college, and I had a chance to go into the city many, many times. Loved going to St. Patrick's for Mass. I tried to hit the 10 o'clock on Sunday, which was the Cardinals' Mass, and Cardinal O'Connor was great. Loved Cardinal O'Connor. He's been gone now almost 20 years. In this regard, it is important to highlight the initial decision made by John Paul II. The Pope, in fact, asked the nuncio to verify the basis of these accusations. Once again, the written investigation does not contain any concrete proof. In fact, 3 of the 4 bishops from New Jersey who were consulted provided information which the report reveals to have been not accurate or incomplete. Even though the Pope had known McCarrick since 1976, meeting him during his trip to the United States, and this was during the bicentennial year that Philadelphia hosted the Eucharistic Congress, and Cardinal Wojtyła came over for that, and yeah. And I guess McCarrick was on a fishing trip with his nephews and was kidding with John Paul that he had to leave his vacation. Anyway, let's see. He then accepted the proposal of the then Apostolic Nuncio to the United States and that of the prefect of the Congregation of Bishops to drop him as a candidate. They argued that even in the absence of specific details, the risk should not be taken of transferring the prelate to Washington. They believed that the accusations, even though they were considered groundless, could resurface and cause embarrassment and scandal. McCarrick therefore seemed destined to remain in Newark. Let's see, something happened that radically changed the course of events. McCarrick, after having evidentially become aware both that he was a candidate and of the reservations in his regard, wrote to Bishop Jewish, the secretary to John Paul II, and I know how to say Jewish because the priest at my first year apostolate in Philadelphia was the priest that greeted John Paul II when he came in 1976 for the Eucharistic Congress. And I also know that too because he was in a Marvel comic. Anyway, John Paul II read the letter and was convinced that the American Archbishop was telling the truth and that the negative rumors were precisely that, solely rumors that were unfounded or at least unproven. It was therefore John Paul II, acting through specific directions imparted to then Secretary of State Sedano, who established that McCarrick should be reinstated on the short list of candidates, and it was he who in the end chose McCarrick for the See of Washington. Anyway, Pope Benedict's decision. Furthermore, at the time of his appointment, no victim, adult or minor, had come yet made contact with the Holy See or with the nuncio in the United States. Moreover, nothing inappropriate about McCarrick's behavior was reported during his years as Archbishop in Washington. When in 2005 accusations of harassment and abuse towards adults began to surface once again, the new Pope asked for the resignation of the American Cardinal to whom he had recently granted a 2-year extension of his mandate. In 2006, McCarrick left his position as head of the Archdiocese of Washington, becoming Archbishop Emeritus. The report demonstrates that in this period, Cardinal Archbishop Vigano, in his capacity of delegate for papal representatives, had reported information about McCarrick's possible involvement with adults that had arrived from the nunciature, can't say that word too easily, to his superiors in the Secretary of State. So in the years followed, the indications McCarrick received from the Congregation of Bishops to lead a more quiet and reserved life and to decline frequent appearances in public. The Cardinal continued to move about, traveling from one part of the globe to the other, Rome included, generally with the knowledge and at least tacit approval of the Papal Nuncio. There has been a lot of discussion regarding the true substance of the request McCarrick received from the Holy See to lead a more withdrawn life. From documents and testimonies now published in the report, it is evident that sanctions were never imposed. They were rather recommendations given to him orally in 2006 and then in writing in 2008, without stating that this was an explicit desire on the part of Pope Benedict XVI. And by the way, pray for Pope Benedict XVI. He is Well, as you know, he's in his 90s as well. And I just read his secretary was asking for prayers because the Holy Father Emeritus's health is declining. So they were recommendations that presupposed McCarrick's goodwill and willingness to respect them. The fact that the Cardinal remained active, that he continued to travel, and that he accomplished various missions, even though he had no mandate from the Holy See, shows that his activity was tolerated. Having received in 2012 a new accusation against McCarrick, Vigano, who in the meantime had been appointed nuncio in the United States, received instructions from the prefect for the Congregation for Bishops to investigate. However, the report shows that he did not carry out all the investigations that had been asked of him. When Francis was elected, McCarrick was already over 80 years old and therefore was excluded from the conclave. His customary travels underwent no change, and the new pope was not given documents or testimony to make him aware of the seriousness of the accusations, including adults against the former Archbishop of Washington. What was communicated to Pope Francis was that there had been allegations and rumors related to immoral conduct with adults prior to his appointment to Washington. Since, in his view, the accusations had been investigated and had been rejected by John Paul II, and well aware that McCarrick had remained active during Benedict's pontificate, Francis did not think it was necessary to modify the course adopted by his predecessors. Yeah, what has the church learned? Well, we've learned a lot. Let's see, do we have anybody watching? We do not. That's fine. For anybody watching in the future, anyway. What's been recounted in the massive amount of testimonies and documents have now been provided through the report is without doubt a tragic page in the recent history of Catholicism. That it is. A painful story from which the entire church has learned. That it has. In fact, it is possible to read several of the measures that Pope Francis took after the February 2019 meeting on the protection of minors through the lens of McCarrick's case. Let's see. Anyway. Yeah, so as I said, pray for Ted McCarrick. Not calling him Cardinal McCarrick because he's not a priest anymore. Who knows where he's at, but this has been frustrating. So, but to know that God is always in charge, and the fact that we ourselves, priests, laity, hasn't destroyed the church through horrible, horrible scandals is one of the proofs that it is divinely founded by Christ upon the faith of St. Peter. So anyway, that's about all I have for this article. I'm going to be streaming on Sunday with Father Sinatra and Father Bem. I don't know if Father Galfont will be coming. So anyway, thanks for watching. Please be sure to hit the like and subscribe and share the video. So until next time, God bless.